All right. Hi, everyone. Welcome. I am Dr. Toya Davis, and this is Aligned, Liberated, and Abundant. Today's episode is Owning Your Own Success. And I'm so excited because I have a guest today, Dr. Iya Funlayo, who I absolutely love, and I am sure we're going to have a great conversation. But before we get into today's topic, just a reminder to make sure you are in the right place. Aligned, Liberated, and Abundant is the place for high achieving women who feel like you've done the things. You've earned the money, you've checked the boxes, you got the degrees, you might be married, you have kids, all of the things, but inside you still feel like there is more, right? Oftentimes, this is our soul saying, wait a minute, something is out of alignment. And so, this is the place where we get to talk about all of the things, give strategies and tips. So, thank you for joining us today. I am going to go ahead and introduce our guest. And then I'll let her tell you a little bit about herself as well. All right. So we have Dr. Iya Funlayo, PhD, is a scholar and initiated priestess in the IFA Orisha tradition. She is the founder of Ashe Ire Incorporated IFA Orisha Temple and the founding director of the African and Diasporic Religious Studies Association and founding dean of Ashe Ire Communiversity, an independent Africana Studies Institute. Dr. Wood received her PhD from Harvard University, and her work has been published in academic and popular venues, including the Journal of Africana Studies, the Review of Religious Research, and the Oxford Handbook of Caribbean Religions. A dedicated scholar, she lectures frequently and has appeared in documentaries for PBS and the National Geographic Channel. So thank you so much for joining us. And when I turn it over to you, if you feel like there's something else I missed, feel free to go ahead and tell the people something else.
Oh, well, first of all, I am just honored to be here with you. I am so delighted always to get to spend time with you and to share energy with the people out there who will be listening. And yeah, I think you've covered all the highlights. The three things that are the biggest in my world are scholarship, service, and spirit. And so everything that I do is at the intersections of those. And so I'm thankful to be able to do this work and I'm happy to be here with you today.
Yes, thank you. So you all, I have or we continue to cross paths in multiple ways. And one of the things that I respect and appreciate is it is not easy in this kind of new age day and age to find people in high integrity.
Mhm.
Particularly when you were talking about the world of spirituality, right? And I recognize that the people that are finding me and listening to me come from a multitude of places and walks. But the thing that I want you to know is that everyone that I bring before you, I bring them because I believe in, they have a track record, right? I believe in what they've done, I believe in what they do. And another thing that I love about Dr. Iya Funlayo is that bridge of scholarship and spirit, right? It is, we can talk about it, right? But it's another thing to say, you know what? I love this. I appreciate this. I respect this so much. And I'm going to study it to make not only a contribution to the world, but then to also make myself a better spirit conduit, a better advocate, a better resource for the people. And so I really, really love that. So with
Mm.
that, I'm actually going to just ask you to tell a little bit about some of how you show up. I mentioned your scholarly work, but kind of some of the ways that you show up for people in the world in regard to that kind of spirit, scholar, priestess idea.
Hmm. That's a great question. Thank you. I really, everything that I do aims to bring the two together. So, on the spiritual level, I do host prayer and meditation services every Sunday morning at 10 a.m. I am the child of pastors. Shout out to my parents, the Reverend Hoist, and so I grew up with that sort of sensibility of regular communion with the community and with spirit. And so that's where I was led to begin doing that, hosting those services back in 2017. So it's been 6 years now, and it's been a beautiful journey. I also host summits and other workshops that share spirituality. I've been so honored to have you as a guest at at one of my summits, and looking forward to having you back again. And so I really try to marry the knowledge and praxis, right? And when we learn things, we can read things all day, we can study things all day, but spirit and spirituality is an experiential thing. It's something that's to be felt. It's something that's to be done and experienced. And so, but there is also, because those of us as children of the diaspora who have been separated from our traditions, we do have the very real knowledge deficit in some ways, where we don't know what we don't know. And so those of us who may have been raised in other traditions and who may not know about our African spiritual traditions, it's really my aim to teach about them, and to teach about them in a way that's accessible, right? That's not only accessible to other scholars, but that's accessible to everyone. In addition to the prayer and meditation services, I also lecture frequently. I host public lectures, and have appeared in documentaries. And really, in addition to helping people to have knowledge about and practice African spirituality, I also aim to demystify it for those who may not practice, but who are curious to know about it, because African spirituality and all things connected to us as African descended peoples, as we know, have been denigrated in various ways. And so it's really my aim to show the power of our traditions, the beauty, the knowledge, and the fun, right, that we can have, as well as the ways in which the principles of our traditions support us in being successful in the things that we do in life. And that's really something that's very important to me.
And I think that is actually the perfect segue, right? This idea of things supporting us. One of your, and I don't want to say it wrong because I probably am, right? But one of the things that you always say is, if my Ori doesn't support it, then it can't happen. And I know the term Ori comes out of the Yoruba cosmology, but the idea and the concept really isn't anything different than when I am talking about, you are your own. If you think you can, right? If you think you can't, you can't.
That's
You are
right.
the creator of your reality, right? It's this idea that if you haven't allowed yourself in your mind, in that God aspect that lives within inside of all of us, if you haven't given space or kind of tapped into that God aspect within you, then the words that are coming out of your mouth, right, really don't amount to much, because the internal aspect, there's a disconnect. And so, like I said, today
Right.
we were talking about creating and defining kind of your own success. So give me a little bit around, because that is not the normal forward facing ideology that comes out of spirituality, right? This idea that no, the head leads and then everything else kind of comes through that. So give me a little bit around that topic.
Yeah, absolutely. So as you said, or the concept of Ori comes out of the Yoruba tradition, and the tenets of the sacred scriptures of Ifa actually tell us that no entity, no blessing can come to us without the sanction of our own heads. So it doesn't matter how many doors open for us. It doesn't matter how much wealth wants to come to us. It doesn't matter how much success wants to come to us. If there's a blockage within us that doesn't allow us to accept those good things that come to us, if there's a blockage within us that doesn't allow us to walk through the doors that have opened, then we are not going to meet with success, no matter how much it's put into our path. And so the concept of Ori tells us that there are actually three parts of ourselves that have to be aligned in order for us to be successful. And those three parts are our heads, where we reason, right? And where we understand what makes sense, and we have logic. We also have our gut, which is our instincts and our intuition. And then we have our feet, which is the action part, which says, hey, the door has opened. Now it's time to walk through it. And so, in order to meet with success, we have to have alignment in all three of those areas. We have to understand what makes sense for us to do. We have to understand what is intuitive for us to do and what we are being guided to do by that place in us that's not so logical, but that can see further than what our logical mind can sometimes see. And then we have to be aligned in taking action, right? The action is such an important part, and it's a part that we miss because, especially when we're talking about spirituality, we hear a lot of talk about prayer and manifestation and meditation, and all of that is cute, fine, dandy, well and good. But if we just sitting around burning candles and thinking about being successful and writing down, I'm going to be successful, but not actually walking the path and taking the action that's going to lead to the success, we can't get there. It's like one of the classic stories that is told is that there was a person who went to a diviner and was upset because the diviner told them that they were going to be a doctor. And when they came back to the diviner a few years later, they said, "Look, you said I was going to be a doctor and I'm not a doctor." And the diviner said, "Well, did you go to medical school? Did you even go to college? Like, did you do any of the things that you actually would need to do in order to become a doctor?" And of course, they hadn't. And so when we talk about owning our own success, it's really about understanding the part that we play, what it is, what's necessary for us to do, that it's not going to be a priest, a priestess, a reader, or a mentor, or our boss, or another guide who's going to make anything happen for us. They're going to help us see what's possible, right? They're going to encourage us along the path, but we actually have to be the ones to take ownership and take the actions towards the things that we desire.
Yes, action, action, action. If anyone has come to me for any type of service, you know that there is going to be an action that you have to take, right? Because I'm like, there is no magic button.
That's right.
And I am also team, I love neuroscience and kind of this ability to rewire the brain and create new neural pathways. But even in that, right, there has to be action. And the thing that I talk about when we are making those changes is that the action has to support the new thing, right? So
Mm,
if, let's say I've identified that there is a block in, I'm saying I'm going to be a millionaire. I'm going to be a millionaire. I'm going to be a millionaire. Oftentimes, not taking the steps that are necessary to
to
become
get
a
there.
millionaire is because there is something happening on the inside, right?
Mm,
It can be a pre-programmed idea. It can be something you picked up from society. It can be an ancestral thing that's being passed down there, but something is there. And once you identify that something, so now you you see the mismatch, you've identified the something, you've done the affirmations, you've done the journaling, you've done the visualization, you've done it all to change it. Now you have to take an action step towards this new vision, no matter how small, because that's the thing that actually cements in the change, right? If you haven't done something to cement in the change, then it easily can revert back to the other thing because you haven't really cleared or changed that the energetic kind of pathway to it.
hmm
So that's my deviation on that. But one of the things that I wanted to just to circle back to around is the idea of the head, the gut, and the feet. I love that breakdown because it's a very um, easy way for people to just kind of remember like the three parts, the three parts that come into creating and owning your own success. Um, that gut though, let's dive in because my audience is primarily women, right? And I lead with this notion that typically as women, we are not taught or we are taught to not trust our gut, right? We are taught to diminish that and seek that kind of external guidance or that external validation for that thing that we already feel. What are your thoughts around what has been your experience kind of around that, getting people to trust that gut?
I think well, first of all, you're absolutely right. There are ways in which our women's intuition and the sense that we have, the connection that we have to the divine, because that's really where that intuition comes from and where that inspiration comes from, has been diminished in favor of the logical mind, right? In favor of the brain as icon, as one of my professors, Ahmed Ragab, talks about. He talks about the idea that of how spirituality and intuitive sense was diminished in favor of the brain, but the brain has now become like the new religious icon, right? The thing that we're bowing down to and giving all the power. And so it is difficult sometimes for us as women, especially women of color who have had our intuition dismissed, who have had it actively demonized as being evil or devilish or witch like, all of these terms that have been used that lead us to not trust ourselves. And so one of the biggest things when you talked about taking action that we can do is to listen to the guidance that we get, even on a small level, to take an action that's based on that internal guidance. And the more that we are able to do that, even if, let's say, you're driving one day and your spirit tells you turn right and you would normally turn left to go wherever it is that you're going, see where that takes you and see that, oh, well, you ran into a friend, or you got to a place that you needed to go and didn't remember that you actually needed to go there. Something will happen positively as a result of that. And that helps to increase our confidence in taking those actions moving forward. Um, I'm also a big proponent, of course, of meditation and affirmation, of really saying, right, I trust my instincts, I trust my intuition, really saying those things over and over again and getting ourselves programmed with that, right? We become the things that we embody. And so the more that we're able to say that, as trite as it might feel at times to just say it even when we don't feel it, saying that helps to program that energy into our minds and um, helps us to feel that in our bodies. And then there's also, just today I was working with a client and I told, I suggested to her, and I suggest to everyone listening, that you really pay attention to how your body feels with the things that you engage in. Right. Because with our minds, we can convince ourselves of some things, right? We can make anything make sense if we twirl it around in there long enough. But
Yes.
one of the most powerful things we can do is to actually listen to how our bodies feel when something is suggested to us and take that on as an exercise. So if someone asks you to do something, don't think about it, but just take a moment to see, how did your body even feel when that request came to you? Did it feel like, ooh, I don't want to do that? Was that your first instinct, that your cells kind of shrunk in? Or did your cells expand and say, oh, that sounds interesting, that sounds exciting? Like, taking stock of how our bodies actually feel when we're engaged in things is one way as well to tap into our intuitive power and tap into that part of us that knows even before it hits our brain. Our bodies know, and we get that feeling of yes or no, and understanding what yes feels like in our body and what no feels like in our body can help us to rewire ourselves to not even send things to our brain if our body has already said no, right? If
Mhm.
our intuition has already said no, then we don't even have to trouble the brain with trying to reason or rationalize it.
Yes.
So those are some small things that I think that we can do to help strengthen that sense within ourselves.
And so there's a book, and I know I always suggest this, y'all, but I think because it's a great book. There's a book called The Body Keeps Score.
Hmm.
And there was an Instagram person who had suggested the book that preceded that, kind of where The Body Keeps Score came from, but I can never remember the title of the original book. I think just because for me, the body does keep, like, it literally for me, it's like the body keeps score, right? I often talk about, by the time we notice something in the physical sense, it's because the body has already stored onto it in such minute little ways that have been imperceptible. By the time you feel it, you know it, you acknowledge it, it's been there. And so I think taking
Right.
a moment to just be like, wait, to intentionally think about taking the moment to say, okay, wait, what's happening right now? How did I feel about that? And then also, with that whole body kind of knowing, saying, where did I feel this thing?
Mm,
Did I feel it in my stomach? Was it in my throat? Right? Where did I feel it? Particularly when we're trying to release things and let go of things, and kind of, again, coming back to where am I in my own way right now, right? There's this thing that I want to do. I recognize that I'm not doing it. Why and where am I in my own way? And kind of surveying the body about where that blockage is coming from can also give us a really good indicator of how we can move forward with that. But there were two things. So there was one, the body keeps score. Oh, the other thing about the body doesn't lie, I'm going to offer this, is kinesiology testing, right?
Mm,
Which is basically the testing. It's not even you testing. It's using the body. It's using the body as a indicator of things that are good or not good, right? Because the body automatically knows, right? Without you, it's like literally as soon as you say it, the body has a reaction, because we're all energy. The body has a reaction to whatever that thing is, and then we'll give you an indicator
that's
on
right.
yes or no. The challenge, though, as I say that, is because we are trying to get people to lean into intuition. And so I don't want to give you a tool that takes you away from trusting yourself, right? Because then it could just become another default thing where it's like, wait, no, let me go check this and make sure that this is right. But I do know that some people need verification, right? So
Right. We do have tools for a reason, right? So, it's okay to use the tool, but as you say, part of it, and when we talk about owning, right, our own success, when we talk about owning uh our own power, is to not become over reliant on any tool. Right. So one thing that, although divination, for example, is an important practice within the IFA Orisha tradition and within many of our other spiritual traditions, one of the things that we say is that divination should never take the place of our good sense. And when we talk about sense, we don't mean just, again, our mind sense, but our body sense and all of that. If our body is screaming no about something, or we're feeling sick every time we think of it, what do we need to go and get divination about it for? Right? Like, we have to trust that sense within ourselves, and use the tools sparingly and not become over reliant on them, because many times when we become over reliant on tools or on other people, to validate the things that we are seeking, it's really because we don't want to take the responsibility ourselves. Because then, if by some chance it doesn't work out, or it goes a different way, we can say, well, Iya so and so said to do that, or Dr. Latoya had said to do this or do that, and it it takes the responsibility off of us. And we have to understand that with power comes responsibility. With owning our own success, with having power over ourselves, we are also responsible for ourselves. And that doesn't mean that there are not societal circumstances that are influencing us, but it does mean that ultimately we are the ones who are in control of what steps we take and what steps we don't take. And the more that we have the power, the more that we embrace that power, right, the more we actually open up the door for us to be more successful and more abundant, because we are really owning it, and we are knowing that if something doesn't work out, I can pivot and take another step and do it a different way. Right? I don't have to keep going that way. If it's not working, I can turn this way and find a way that does work.
yeah, so the title of this whole aligned, liberated, and abundant came because, and I think, yeah, you did speak at the manifestation conference. So a few
Hmm.
years ago, I had the I don't remember what it was called. We're just going to call it manifestation conference. And we were talking about, different tools and aspects of manifestation. And what I realized after that was, again, kind of the easy button, right? It's like, no, I'm going to focus on this thing. And manifestation that doesn't happen from a place of liberation. And this place of liberation for me really is understanding that you are responsible for your own success, right?
Hmm.
Liberation is I get to take control and chart the narrative, and if that doesn't work, I can pivot, right? I'm not beholden to somebody else's ideas, concepts, and limitations for me. And the manifestation without that liberation aspect don't work. You can manifest it temporarily, right? But then you're going to stay in this constant loop and cycle of having to
Mm,
manifest it until you can bring the idea of alignment, which is bringing your God self and following that aspect into this idea of I am my own God self, right? And then the manifestations start to happen and they continue to happen. And when you notice something, it's like, wait a minute, let me be able to pull back and assess, figure out where I'm off, and then, kind of move back into that own idea. Um,
that's
so
right. That aspect of assessment is so important as well, because in addition to being discouraged from using our intuition, we are also discouraged in many ways from trying different things and from pivoting, right? There's a lot of rigidity that exists within our society, and the way that we are often conditioned is to just keep going and keep going and keep going on the same path, even when we see that that path isn't working, when that relationship isn't working, or that job isn't doing what we needed to do, or even with business. I just spoke with a client today who who wanted to try the entrepreneurial path and really has recognized that it's not for her. And I tell anybody, look, I'm not one of those everybody should be an entrepreneur kind of people. I don't think there's anything at all wrong with going to work,
mhm.
coming home, and not thinking about work no more after you get home, right? Because you already know, as someone who's an entrepreneur as well, and who is in this life, that this is not easy,
It
right?
is.
It's not easy. And that's a part of intuition and all in alignment as well, is recognizing, look, this isn't what I signed up for. This isn't the path that's making me happy. It's not the path that's making me feel fulfilled. And so let me pivot, right, and go down another path. There's a spiritual energy within the IFA Orisha tradition called Eshu, who is the one who governs the crossroads, right, and who governs that place of possibility that we all pass through. And so that energy tells us that there is a time when we can choose different directions, that we don't have to keep going the same way just because we've been going that way, that we need to be able to be flexible and to be able to pivot. And especially, this is especially true when we are entrepreneurs, right? When we are doing business for ourselves. And that's part of the beauty and the freedom of it, is that we can try something for a time. And if we see that that something is not getting us to the place where we are seeking to go, we can shift and try another direction, and know that that's not only is that okay, but it's necessary, right? It's necessary, and it's a part of how we own our success. When we do that assessment part and we say, this is working, that's not working, this is making me happy, that's not making me happy, what do I now need to do to shift, right? That's a part of owning ourselves as well.
Yes, yes. And we're gonna get ready to wrap up, but I just want to offer this last thing. Um, the aspect of, particularly as high achieving women, because we are taught to plow through, right? The
Mm,
the marker of success is getting it done, regardless of how we feel, right? It's like the food got on the table, all of the things got turned into the boss. Like, I made it through school, even though I know I'm not going to use that degree ever, right? But the parents said that that's what I was supposed to do. And so I'm going to stick to that path. And so we oftentimes don't give ourselves permission to say, you know what, this actually isn't what I want to be doing or where I am. And I know, kind of, again, honoring that gut, because the gut is, it's always talking to you, right? That inner aspect is always there. We can push it back, we cannot listen, but it doesn't stop it from communicating and trying to send you signals and leaving breadcrumbs,
that's
right? And
right.
so my thing is for you, if you find yourself in a position where it's like, something just isn't right, step back. Let's assess. We don't have to take action on the assessment right now, but step one is assess, right?
Right.
And ask yourself, am I truly living the life that's fulfilled, or that is fulfilling, that I am fulfilled by? Some version of that is grammatically correct. Um, um, and so, just give yourself permission to make a change, right?
That's
I
right.
also recognize, though, that depending on, because y'all know I'm into like the soul and understanding the various aspects of the soul. So I do recognize that some souls have a higher capacity for I'm team, jump and I'll figure it out later, right? And I am oriented that way at soul level. Some people at soul level are oriented in the no, I have to think through it. I'm going to sit everything, all of the things kind of have to be in a row. So I do acknowledge the differences in our natural orientation and proclivity, but none of those orientations say we must sit in a situation that is making us unhappy or unfulfilled.
Right.
So
Right. Right. Yeah. And that's, similarly within IFA, when we talk about soul orientations, one of the ways that we practice that and that we see that is through what we call Oju, right? And so it's said that every person who comes to the world has an Oju, whether they know what it is or not. There's a particular energy, right? An energetic signature that we are all born with. And so for some of us, who have, as you said, this high tolerance for risk and also this high drive towards freedom, we're going to say, look, even if I got to work, like that's me, I'm a freedom person. I'll work all day, every day if I could be free to do whatever it is that I want to do when I want to do it. I'm going to pivot. I'm going to do whatever it is. I'm going to hustle. I'm from Harlem. So I'm a hustle. I done did a little bit of everything. I done sold
she
hats
has.
on the subway, right? You know what I mean? I done did construction. I done did graphic design and computer programming. I'm a spiritual teacher. Like I've done a whole lot of things because for me, freedom is the paramount, and that's I need to be free. For others, structure is more the paramount, and they need to feel secure, right? And so, whatever it is that you need, understand what you need and also understand that you are empowered to get it, right? Many times we may have needs and we don't feel empowered to go after the things that we need. And so, whether you need freedom, whether you need more structure, whatever it is that you need, owning your success means recognizing those needs and feeling empowered to meet them, whatever that may mean for you. It's not going to look the same for everyone, right? It's not owning our success isn't going to look like entrepreneurship for everyone. It's not going to look like a corporate job for everyone. It's not going to look like, a creative project for everyone. But whatever it looks like for you, right, and feeling empowered to take steps towards it, that is a part of owning yourself. And also, again, assessing and owning who you are, right? If you are that person who feels like you really need that structure, don't try to run out here, and be all willy nilly as an entrepreneur just because, somebody on some podcast or whatever said everybody needs 1,000 LLCs. Like, don't do that to yourself. Right. And conversely, someone like me, if you're someone like me who knows that you're not going to be happy in nobody's nothing, that you have to be able to be free to do what you want to do, then think about and look at how to set yourself up for that, right? And listen to yourself when you hear that voice inside you say, this isn't working for me. That's the biggest, one of the biggest things in owning our success is really owning ourselves and understanding the type of people that we are and what we really need to be happy and to be empowered. This society doesn't encourage us in our happiness, right? There's this idea that being miserable is the norm. Even the whole like, oh, thank God it's Friday and we made it through the week. I want to just make it through the week. I want to feel good. I
Yes.
want to enjoy my weeks. I don't want to just be living for the weekend, right? I want to enjoy the things that I'm doing. And so, even thinking about the ways that we are conditioned to think that suffering should be the norm, to think that stress should be the norm, to think that we should only be happy on the weekends or during 2 weeks of vacation, right? These are all some of the things that we are working to undo as mindsets. And these are all some of the ways that we own ourselves and our success when we are able to shift ourselves out of some of those toxic mindsets.
Yes, wonderfully said. And before you mentioned at the top of the show your Sunday meditation and Orisha prayer, and the Black Summit Spirit Solstice Summit. So as we get ready to go out, you can just remind us or give us a little bit more information about that and tell people where they can find you.
Absolutely, absolutely. Well, thank you again for having me. It has really just been wonderful as always. And all of you are invited to connect with me at ASEIRE.com. That's ASEIRE.com. And all of the information about me and what we do at the temple will be there. Every Sunday morning at 10 a.m., we do have Orisha prayer and meditation. And then, yes, on December 21st, we will be hosting our sixth, I believe, or seventh annual Black Spirit Solstice Summit, where we have a full day of all the juju that Black folk do. There will be workshops, interactive workshops, and vendors, and a whole lot of Blackness and good time that will be happening on December 21st. And so all of that information will come out soon as well. So if you visit the website, you can join the mailing list and you'll get updates. Not too many, because I don't OD with the emails, but you'll get updates on all the things that we do so that you can be a part. And if the scholarly piece is something that you're interested in as well, you can pop over to adrsa.org and join that mailing list as well to connect with the things that we do at the African and Diasporic Religious Studies Association, which is a scholarly association.
All right. And I will have all of that information for you all in the show notes and in the description. I am also going to put in the show notes and in the description, I have a lovely set of affirmation mandala coloring books, right? Since we've been talking about kind of reframing the mind and positive things to take ownership of ourselves and to just give ourselves that reminder that no, you are the creator. And so I will drop all of the links for those. One is like living a life without limits. The other one is creating a life of abundance. I'm really bad with titles, y'all, so know that that's probably not the title, which is why I said I'm just going to drop it in the show notes and in the descriptions. But they are available on Amazon. So thank you all for joining us today. Thank you, Dr. Funlayo, for being here, for taking time.
Yes.
It is always a pleasure when we get to share space and have conversation. And for everyone that is joining me today, like, subscribe, share, wherever you're listening to me or watching this at. So do all of those things. And remember, you deserve to live a life that lights you up from the inside out. So until next time, stay aligned, liberated, and abundant. Bye.
Adabo.